go to training toolbar. You can raise your hand if you have a question. I'll then unmute you individually, and then you can go through a couple questions that you have, and then we'll rotate on to the next person. With this amount of people, let's try to at least everyone get 2 or 3 questions in, and then of course if we have time, we'll go back through the list and use up as much as we need. But to start us out, does anyone have a question that I could answer? All right, Eric, go ahead.
Hey, Michael. Hey, I got a question. I haven't updated service program in quite some time. I know you guys worked on a couple fixes for me, and I got it running the way I wanted it to run, and so I figured if it wasn't broke, don't fix it. So I just recently updated it, and I'm noticing a couple changes. Obviously, you guys done quite a bit of work to the program. A couple questions in specific to generating invoices on QuickBooks from the service program. How we operate as well, we bill in advance. So what we do is we'll go onto the service program, create our rental ticket, post to QuickBooks, and traditionally the way it's been, there hasn't been a date range applied to that invoice. So we'll go into QuickBooks and then we'll edit our date range. We'll manually type it in for the date range that we're billing for. And call it good. Well, now it's generating a date range for us, but it's weird. It's not generating the correct date range. It's actually billing it from today's date till the rental end date, if that makes any sense. And it's also a location to the invoice, whereas before, it never would add a location to the invoice.
Correct. We have changed it so that now when you are on a rental item, if you hit post to QuickBooks, it would mimic how it would if you were to run a billing batch with a location and the date range. Will take the build through date, and the date range will be from this date to the rental end date. If no rental end date is selected, it will go from the build through date to today's date.
Okay. Now, how do I manipulate the beginning? Because it seems like it automatically selects today's date. Is there a way for me to, how do I manipulate that date, that specific, the first date that it puts down, which typically is today's date? That's what we've been seeing. Is there a field that I can manipulate that with? Or, because,
You should be able to use the rental start and end date also if you hit post to QuickBooks on that first one to control what that date range will be.
Okay, yeah, I tried that, because we're entering in, say, a rental for next weekend, or sorry, next week. So, I've changed it to the rental start date to be, say, March 3rd through, March 30th or whatever it would be. And when I post it to QuickBooks, it's saying today's date through, say, March 30th. So I don't know if that's not working properly or what. But I have tried entering in a rental start date and a rental end date, and it's been putting today's date on there.
Let me see. Are you able to see my screen now?
Hang on a second. Yes.
Okay. Let's see. So what I am doing on my rental transaction, let's see, this one's going to, I don't have the right QuickBooks file for this. Is your billing increment monthly?
Yes.
So you're seeing the dates being today's date through the build through date?
Yes, sir.
So if you're saying that, and what would you need to manipulate for that first date? I mean, if it's starting today, what date would you like to see as that first date?
Well, if I'm looking at your screen right now, like how we would typically set it up is our delivery date. Say that's March 3rd. So if you set that to March 3rd, and then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be the date range would be the delivery date would be March 3rd, and then the build through date would be March 30th. We bill in 28-day increments, and we bill in advance. So yeah, that's correct. That's what you got there.
Okay. And you sure you've tried it with this C3 to 330?
Yes, sir. Excuse me.
So when I just hit post to QuickBooks, what I'm getting is 330. So if I change that possibly to so that's what you would see, 330.
Yeah, actually, that looks correct now. Looks like before it was 330 to 330, though. So
correct. That is when I had my build through date set to 330. If you treat your build through date as the starting date, it will go through this is the starting date of the rental and this is the ending date. And then once posted it to QuickBooks, you could then adjust this to say, okay, now it has been billed through the 30th, and you're fine going forward with batches.
I see. Okay, so we'd almost be better off just sticking with what we were doing and then just editing once in QuickBooks with our date range, as opposed to, you know, doing it here, posting it to QuickBooks, then going back to the service program and changing our date range again.
Well, now, I mean, now you could put in your delivery date 3/3 and then it posts to QuickBooks, and you don't even have to go to QuickBooks. Your date range will be correct, and then just set your billing date through what you just billed it for, and then you're done. You wouldn't even have to go to QuickBooks.
Okay, so now, okay, when you're putting rental end date, I see that rental end date that you put there. You know, if it's an ongoing, does that affect anything? If I go beyond, say, March 30th, so the customer wants to keep it for longer than the 30th, will that rental?
No, because that'll be always managed through the billing batch like it always has, and it still stayed the same. What really triggers the close of that rental is the date returned.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so I'll have to do a little more troubleshooting with that. Maybe I did it incorrectly or something. I'll do some playing with that. But also, in regards to the posting invoices to QuickBooks, that location field, if we put something in that location now, it's showing up on our QuickBooks invoices, and we prefer not to have those showing up. Is there an option to make that, you know, stop?
I think under total maintenance, And I don't know if this is just effect for batches, but I do have actually show the location. Let's see. Maybe it's just on the run batches screen. Billing. Yeah, right here, the show the location description. You have that set to no currently?
Yes, I do. That works for when we're doing a batch, but when I'm doing individuals, it shows that location, and it shows it after the date range.
Yep, I do see it, folks. We'll do something similar. I'll get with Bill and see if there's something we can do maybe for an option for that to keep the location from, just like we do on the batches.
Sure. Okay. All right, that's pretty much all I have now. I'm sure there'll be more down the road, but that's good.
Okay, not a problem. Go ahead and mute you, Eric. I do appreciate talking to you again. And any other questions, just let us know. I'm going to jump on down the list here. Jean, did you have a question for us?
Yeah, I have, well, two questions. One, when I ran batch today, because we do a full month, but for the 30th and the 31st, it prorated it. And so what did I do wrong on that?
You have the options. Do you have it set to prorate?
Well, yeah, I have it set to prorate, but it's month to month, and so I don't want it to charge less for February just because February is shorter.
Yeah, when you ran billing, you're telling the software if you're running it from the 1st to the 28th.
Right.
In the billing cycle, if you do a full calendar month billing, for the month of February, it's going to be 28.
So we should have changed that to 28, and that would have done it right then.
Correct. Then it would have been shown that, okay, this thing's rented out 28 days. It's all the days in February, so it's a full month. If you would have put 30 days in this billing period, and it, you're basically billing it from the 1st to the 28th, it's only going to show 28. That's why it prorated it.
Okay, well, that makes sense there. My other question is, I have an actual toilet invoice set up, but it's not it was pulling through, and now it's not pulling through to QuickBooks. It's not running it for some reason, and I'm not sure why.
You want to make sure you have the option of the template right here on that transaction. Selected here. Are you using billing groups?
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for each billing group, if we double click in the billing group field, you can select a template.
Oh, okay.
That way you could have maybe different billing groups get different templates.
Okay, I got it.
So then when you selected it, it will show the template there.
Perfect. I will get that corrected then. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Liz, I know you have a question. If you're on the call, do you see where you can enter your audio pin? It should be like you have to hit like pound and maybe a digit or a couple digits and then pound again, and then I can actually unmute you. It won't let me do it. There we go. All right, go right ahead.
I wanted to ask you what the difference between tasks and route tickets. When do you use those? We're not sure if we're using tasks in the right place or if we should be using route tickets instead.
It's a great question. Your industry being, I think you're in kind of the pool industry, the way we have the software set up for our pool customers is tasks are great for managing repair type calls, like service calls where you're going out to, the customer's pump's broken, one-time services. Anything that is done for like weekly cleanings, anything reoccurring, it should be on the route schedule, and the guys do a route ticket for those.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's why on our route ticket, if using those new mobile devices, you have those 3 groups of fields, 60 fields. That's where you can set up these fields to hold all your different chemical readings, so guys can track it.
Oh yeah, okay. One other thing that we're trying to do, because we're setting up all of our inventory, and we're putting it in QuickBooks first, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
We have service type of inventory, such as labor, and then we also have retail items like chemicals. So the service type inventory allowed us to make a main category and then subcategories underneath. But for retail or chemical type things, it's not letting us do that. And we didn't know if you have to set the chemicals up under a non-inventory item or a group. I saw the drop-down menu, but for some reason...
If I make a new item, instead of call this your category always, like if you wanted to make like a parent item and then sub-items underneath it, your items always have to match in the type. So if I make the category going to inventory, I'll call it chemicals. Okay. I'll pick an income account here. I should be good with that. Got my name. I want to add items to it. I'm just going to go to new item. And to make it a sub-item, I have to make sure it's also an inventory report, and I can say sub-item of any other inventory part. So if you're working with non-inventory items, your category name has to be a non-inventory item, and then you can add sub-items to it that are non-inventory parts.
Okay. And I have one more real quick question. Is there any way that you can set the sales tax to be defaulted on the invoice instead of choosing it each time?
Sales tax is defaulted for invoices as long as it's set up in QuickBooks.
Okay.
So if you go to customers, and if we open up any customer in QuickBooks, you need to go to tax settings, and you need to tell the customer that, or tell QuickBooks that the customer is taxable and what tax item or what percentage you charge that customer. That way, every time you do an invoice for that customer in the future, it'll always charge, it'll default to the QuickBooks preference here.
Gotcha.
Do we have to do that per customer?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't want to monopolize you, but under one last thing, under the service program, when you got that, we were watching a how-to video the other day on you hit the where you could schedule, you can view the schedule. There's names that keep popping up that we've never entered as employees, and I know that's maybe a very small little thing. Yes, exactly, right there. These names.
Yep, you have to set your employees' names when you first do the calendar. So if you hit employees, then you pick and choose by holding control which employees you want to see. And when you hit save and close, you'll never see those others again. You'll all be your employees.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I know that was a silly.
No worries. No, good question.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem. You go right ahead.
Hey, Michael, I'm sorry, I'm still having a hard time hearing you this afternoon. Did you ask us for questions?
Yeah.
I need to start working on templates, and I wanted to watch the videos, the training videos before, so I could ask you questions during this class, and I didn't get a chance, so I don't want to waste your time having you show me any of that. I'll watch the videos first, but I was wondering, I had sent you an email a couple days ago. You were working on a template for us, and was wondering if you got that email and if you have that template, if I could get it from you.
Yeah, I'll send it to you right now.
Perfect. And then I'll watch the video before I start asking you template questions.
Okay.
I've got just some real quick ones, I think.
Uh-huh.
If one of the things, if I get a bigger monitor, I want to be able to see the whole screen. Will I just see a bigger picture of what I have now and I will still have to scroll back and forth? Or if I get a bigger monitor, will I not have to scroll up and down and back and forth still?
Kind of a double-edged question. It's dependent on the size of your monitor and the video card really inside the computer. And what is really controlling it are your screen resolutions.
Okay.
So right now, like my monitor that we're on is 600 by 900. The 900 width, and that's kind of giving me almost to the printed column. If I were to increase that a little bit, I may get to start these time and time. That to shrink down the view. I mean, everything looks a little smaller on a computer, but you can fit more on the screen.
Okay, that's what we're trying to do. I'm working on the repair guys now and tasks and working with having them work on their phones. And on my computer, I wanted to see that column that said complete, yes or no. So that's why I was asking. When they hit complete on their telephone on a task, will it take it off that calendar view, or will it still be on there?
It'll still stay on the schedule from the desktop until you either invoice it or post it to notes.
Okay. One of the things we were doing before is we'd come up with like a system where we would have them change the sub-assigned to like complete. So then it came off the calendar so I could quickly look at the calendar and see how they were doing that day or just see what was scheduled and what was on the calendar. And now with the new phone system, I guess, they don't have access to sub-assigned on their phone.
Correct. If they change the assign to, that will change it. It changes it for both of them in the field. So, I mean, the best way they can do is just mark it as complete, and then you can see throughout the day periodically how they're doing by just filtering on that completed per user.
Okay. So I think we used to be able to change the sub-assigned on our phone, and we can't now.
Right.
Is there a reason you did that, or is there?
Nope, it's just right now we're just operating off the one field for the guys in the field.
Okay. When we get assigned, we send quotes to customers and they sign them and fax them back to us or email them back, maybe not through our system here, not through the service program. So we scan them, and if I, now the QuickBooks 2013, I can actually attach that to a customer once we scan it. Is that going to make the file too big that I'm going to have problems? I have Intuit constantly telling me my file's too big. I need to sign up for this gazillion-dollar service they have. And I've had Bill tell me it doesn't matter. It's fine how it is.
Correct. Yeah, you do not, file attachments will not take up space in your company file. The company file is pretty much comprised of just the data, the customer information itself, items, the transactions. What it's basically doing is what our software does, just kind of put a link to that document on your computer.
Okay, so it shouldn't affect that size, okay. Is there a place, I noticed Eileen's been sick this week, so I've been doing a lot of stuff and I'm coming up with a lot of questions on what she's been doing and what's going on with how we're doing things. When I enter in a quote on the service program, I see there's a place where I can put in the cost of an item. If I select an item, I can put the cost in and then the markup, 100%, 50% or whatever. Does that not save in the system anywhere? If I enter that item again, do I have to start over?
The cost is supposed to be derived from QuickBooks.
So where in QuickBooks, I guess, I looked, and I don't know if I'm looking in the right place. I didn't see a place to put the cost in at QuickBooks.
It's service sum, not a cost. So that's probably the problem is all your items are service-based items, and there you cannot tie a cost to service items. If you do
inventory items, I'm sorry, you're still breaking up on me.
If you do inventory or non-inventory item, you can I believe it's a cost if you do an inventory part cost.
Okay. I'll play with that then. Great, thanks. about on some of the tasks that you showed me last week, we were talking about there was a box that says web comment. What is that box for? If we make a comment in there, where does that go?
That is to display comments from the customer portal.
Okay.
So you can create a quote, send it to your customer's portal. They could log in, see the quote, and they can add a comment to it, which you could then see it in the desktop.
Okay. Okay. So the last thing I had, Michael, is questions about that customer portal. Is there a time we could get you again to go over? I've been trying to mess with it finally.
Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'll have one of our guys give you a call here in just a sec as soon as the training's done, and he can help get you on my calendar for next week.
That'd be perfect. If you could do that and then send me that template, I'd appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay. All right, Deborah, I think you had a question. I've unmuted you, and I see that. Do you want to go ahead and ask that?
Yeah, I'm actually here with Eric also. We're together. So
okay.
ask the first question that he can ask the other, so we're on the same phone.
Okay.
So we are going to be using mostly the Memorize transactions for all of our monthly contracts that we do. And of course, then we're going to have the route tickets. That's where we'll enter anything to do with supplies. And I realize, or at least I know by watching the videos, that I'll take my Memorize transactions and make that into a route ticket and then have everything bill all together at the end of the month. And I understand that. It will work perfectly. My only question is that we have a customer that we have about 15 or 16 locations for them, and they want a separate invoice every month for supplies. So I don't think I can make a memorized transaction with a zero balance, or I shouldn't say I don't think what if I can do. Maybe ask you, how would I get around that? Do I have to keep them as a memorized transaction in QuickBooks? Just create that.
I would. Yeah, I would keep them as a memorized transaction in QuickBooks. That way you get that one invoice, and then you just use the route tickets for supplies to combine and create that second invoice separately. That'd be a great way to do it.
I mean, I don't follow that. So the memorized transaction will have the monthly contract on it. Oh, and then the route, I understand. Okay, I got it. I had to say it again in my mind. Okay, that's great. That will work perfectly. And Eric, you want to?
The other quick thing we had was, we're new obviously to the service program, and can you take us from, like, someone calls in for us to do like an extra billable sales order? Can you take us from the call to generating the sales order, like, to completion? Can you just walk us through that?
Certainly. The way the service program handles is, I would think, to handle a kind of a one-time service or extra service would be greatly or easily managed through a task. And that's basically a worker, so like this, as soon as the phone rings, hit task entry, plus sign, and then could select the customer. And task types can be definable for the different type of job I'm doing. Maybe it's service call, follow-up, or extra service, something like that.
Those all come from QuickBooks?
No, these task types you set up within the service program. This list should be blank unless you've created something already, and you can just create them just by typing in here.
Oh, great.
And it'll add it. It'll give you a pop-up. Do you want to add it now? Hit yes. Then you can describe what the customer's requesting. Something like that. We then, over here on our due date, this is where we can actually kind of schedule it when we want it to show up. You just say for today, we can assign it to one of the techs, put our start time and end time, and hit close, and that will actually save that task. And here it is in yellow.
The task due today, and that's like upcoming.
Okay, so 3 colors, okay.
Now, to close this out, when the job is done, you can open the task again. You would put in a resolution. And this would be just kind of your closing notes, what you did. And then for being billable, I can just hit invoice.
So hold on, before you do that, what's the difference between invoicing it or it says create sales order?
Creating a sales order will actually just create a sales order in QuickBooks. There's no history generated. It doesn't close the task. It creates an open sales order. The way I've seen 99% of our customers use the program is actually invoice, and it creates an invoice in QuickBooks for the customer.
But that's okay if you take care of it that day. If it's something that's going to be upcoming for the week or something, generally what we do now is create the sales order, and then from the sales order we bill it at that point from QuickBooks. Wouldn't that give us a better tracking method of, so in other words, once we do this, if we want to find out what work we've done in the past, this is just going to be information on the customer stream, the way that it is now?
Yeah, the service program what you want to try to do is eliminate using QuickBooks for kind of what you've been doing is you didn't have a software managed scheduling and service, so you're using an accounting program to do that, and have created a workaround that, I mean, it does work. You get a tracking of your sales order in QuickBooks is kind of like what the service pro task is. So now you can completely separate your AR process from the actual scheduling and billing side. So the service program will start holding all your service history, and then the QuickBooks, you're just managing invoicing and billing. And basically, once the invoice is in QuickBooks, you accept and receive the payments. You can do any payables, stuff like that.
So once the person completes this job and creates an invoice, they don't have to put the pricing on it. The person doing the billing can actually put the pricing on it once it's in QuickBooks?
You could do it either or. I recommend is, someone in the office could mark this as complete and hit invoice, and go to invoice in the service program. That invoice that we just press is what physically gets it off our task list and marks it as complete. It stays as an open invoice in the service program until someone hits post to QuickBooks. So what you do as a kind of a procedure, you go to the open invoice list. Someone could be in charge of then going in, putting in the actual dollar amounts, putting in labor,
We basically don't
parts.
need it anymore in QuickBooks.
Yeah, you just give it. And then let's say someone puts in the stuff for billing and could mark it as approved. That way you know kind of what's ready to be invoiced versus what's not.
Perfect.
And then when you want to invoice it, you just hit post to QuickBooks.
So at the time that the dispatcher closes it, he could assign it to the billing person at that point, couldn't he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do you assign?
Now
How is it assigned?
Right here, he could then assign it to the person responsible for billing on that invoice. But anything that your person responsible for billing would just be kind of sit on this invoice list, this open invoice list, because once it goes to QuickBooks, it's off the screen. So anything pending on this list is basically considered ready to be, edited, if you will. And once you have sent that invoice to QuickBooks, it checks off that it's posted to QuickBooks. Now if we go to the customer's history, if you need to find out kind of what was done, this is where you can pull up running history. You would see right here you have one completed task, the date of the last invoice, but if we go to the Notes tab, here we could see we had an extra service. It was invoiced. Here's all the notes from it.
Everything for every customer.
Perfect.
You can double-click that order number to get back to the work order to see the full information. and you would even have invoicing history of here's that invoice was posted to QuickBooks and the dollar amount. And of course, you would have that same invoice for that customer with QuickBooks.
Awesome.
Great. Is there any compatible field in QuickBooks for the parent company?
Yeah. The parent company and job site is directly for QuickBooks. If you look at this demo company I'm using, a customer in QuickBooks, the goods company, and they've got two sub-accounts or different locations. In the service program, this is what we call the parent. These would be the different locations. If I want to add if you have a customer that has multiple locations, you just have to click on their name, go to a new customer and job, and click Add Job.
Does that give you a way to give them?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do they have to have the same account number as the parent, or you can give it a separate account number?
Under payment settings.
You can have an individual account number for it.
Okay.
Great.
It's basically treated as a separate customer. So if you look at revenue, you're going to see it was for that particular location. So you see that the job site is the one that has the balance. But if you click on the parent company, you would see the balance and invoices for all of the sub-accounts. So it works real well to kind of split out revenue and see it broken down per location.
Perfect. Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Excellent question.
That's it, right?
That's it. Thank you.
Ms. Jean, did you have another question?
Yeah, I have two questions. One, on the when you go into the rentals, if you go into the rental screen and you finish a rental, let's say for some reason you finished a rental and you didn't bill them or something, but where do we look at those rental screens later? I know that you get under billing, you can see billing history of billing transactions.
You can go to rental inventory transactions.
Mm-hmm.
This is everything that's in our system is maybe closed out.
Okay, and then I can double click and look at them there then. Okay, if I need to.
You can just pull that voice and either post it to QuickBooks or do whatever you need.
And it tells me everything it did and how it got returned and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
Yep.
All righty. And then I'm working on a delivery ticket template. So if you go back to the rental screen, and you showed me before over here in Word template, because I can't get it to go to the web ones, but go to the number 10. This is 10 dot up there. The rental agreement, yeah. And it isn't filling in all of the data that it should. If you open that up, go ahead and open it. So the data isn't coming in, like the monthly price and all that stuff. So I need the field code so I can make that go in there because it's not working.
Yeah,
So
the field codes, if you go to, I believe, our online help, we should have, I think, the full list of the transaction. I'm not mistaken. Attempts. I thought we had the list in there. We have tasks, quotes. I'll send you a to have it of all the field names and marks. That makes it easy.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you send me the field codes, and I can try to get that in there.
Okay, I'll do that as well.
Just,
I do have it.
Just a real quick reminder how to stick them in. So I've got it all set up other than sticking those in there and making them work. So, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Do you have another question, Liz?
Yeah, you were just with it showing another client that customer lead detail where you put in all the notes in regards to what happened on the service call and whatnot. I started doing that this week, and go to, yeah, exactly, that specific place. And when I hit print, nothing is there.
Well, yeah, it only prints what's selected, so you have to check off what you print on that far right and then hit print.
I did that too, thinking in apps, yeah, and it doesn't even look anything at all like that. I don't know if maybe that's...
Make sure you're in this print button up here and not this top print button.
Okay. All right.
In the actual notes section. It's on the right. You may have to scroll over to the to see it.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, Deanne, I am not ignoring you. I did see you have a question here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's okay if you keep me muted, though, because our phones ring and there's other people in here on the phones, too.
Okay. All right, I'm going to try to read through this. She sent it in chat. I don't know if everyone else can see it. I'll read it out here. Enter toilet routes to the route schedule. I want to make sure you're doing this correctly. Put the last service date and the route date for the next time it needs to be serviced. Okay. I think I got it. So what you're doing is when set a schedule, you're putting the route date as the customer's service date with their frequency. That way, when you're ready to basically use the system, you can put the route down here, and that's actually going to then take everybody and put them, you can bring them current. So if you had everyone set up like I did on 2/7, their last service date, we then could tell the software to post the route, basically move these forward. And then I could just keep doing that and move forward until they're current with whatever date you're starting. The second part of your question here, make sure the stop number is correct. Stop is to automatically put them in the right order. You have to use our integration with MapPoint to be able to map these stops, and then you could set the stop order based on the recommendations from MapPoint. So if I want to figure out the order of this route, I have Microsoft MapPoint installed. I could pick some to and assign date. What was that, 2/14? Then I could hit map. What this is going to do is send it to Microsoft MapPoint, plot out the stops on the actual map, and then I could optimize it. So here, plot it out, I can go to the route planner, I could hit optimize, then this is my new stop order, so it's change my number only in the service program. That's so I can make sure it stays in the right order. And will you just send me a little message in chat and answer both correctly? Go ahead, Dan. While I'm waiting for Dan to send me a message in chat, Jean, did you have another question?
Yeah, I have one more question. When it comes to routes, I didn't know if you could show me how you actually print out. Can you print out the route sheet from MapPoint, like that list? Can you print it?
I'd assume so. I think I can hit the turnaround up here. Yeah, it's printing
I don't
right
want
next
the map, and I don't want the directions. I just want the print of that thing on the left. When I try to print, it prints the map and everything else. And I don't have that.
If I go to File, Print, I want to strip the maps out, drive directions only, or the turn-by-turn maps. You do driving. Make sure you do driving directions only, and uncheck Include Overview Map. You can then set a title of the printout.
I really don't even want the driving directions. I just want the list on the left. Is there a way to get the list on the left or no?
No, I don't think you can just print the list on the left.
Okay.
I think you'd have to print just at least the directions.
What if you get the addresses of like the restaurants and stuff that are on that route? Can you print that out somehow?
Okay,
Like if you're for lead generation, you said for lead generation, you said that you can get like different businesses in the area, and so how do you print that out, or can you? Or
that I go to categories and I select all my places and I tell it to search within 10 miles of my entire route.
Right.
The only way I can get on here is by double-click to get their contact information.
Just double-click each one. Okay. There's not a way to get a printout of that then.
No, and that can print my map, and it would have all these little bubbles on there with their contact information.
Or you could print it that way. Okay. Okay, that's what I needed to understand. Thank you. Oh, yeah, you can. Deborah brought up a good point. You can kind of copy and paste it if you know how to do like a screen capture in Word. I think maybe a good option. If you open up a new Word doc and you can, do a screen capture of one of the buttons on the toolbar, where you can then pick this screen and get a direct printout or capture it that way, possibly. Let's see here. And yes, Dan, the longitude and latitude will override any mapping in the service program. You can enter the longitude and latitude in the custom detail here. Even if the customer has an address or a blank address, as long as that's entered, it will override it. All right, that does take us right to our right about to our hour mark. This is a great Q&A class. I have recorded this whole thing. I will put it up, make it available probably beginning of next week. I appreciate everyone coming out, and I hope we get more turnouts like this. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.